Kabala and Geometry, the Shabbat square, the fourth commandment, and the fourth day of creation. Sacred geometry in Kabbalah revealed God's fingerprint and the seal of the names of God in Hebrew. This is possible because Hebrew is the mathematical language of nature. In this video, we'll examine number 4, whose geometric expression is a square, in the context of the fourth day of creation and heavenly lights, in connection to the fourth commandment relating to the observance of the Shabbat, and with connection to the square, as the base of the Holy of Holies, the Dvir, in Shelomo's temple. Number 4, known as Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name. Number 4 is mentioned in Passover Haggadah as 4 sons, 4 cups, and the 4 who entered the Pardes, 4 varieties of Sukkot, 4 directions of the compass, and 4 is connected to Shtiv Erev, meaning horizontally and vertically, like wrap and woof threads. In Hebrew, Shti means 2, and Erev means 4, and in geometry these mean lines and areas. The Hebrew logos, as explained in my previous videos, is expressed in decimal geometry. If we divide a 1,000 diameter circle into 4, we'll discover the Shabbat square and the scientific and mathematical skeleton of the Hebrew language. The visual side of a natural theory, insight into the logical system in which God works within creation. When we expose the fractal grid, which lies in the foundation of the Shabbat square, we can see the formation of the sky in Gematria 395, means heaven, Hashamayim. 395 also means 8, and indeed 8 rays of heaven emerge from the center of the circle and Shabbat. In the beginning, God created the Shamayim, 8, heavens, Shemona, Hashamayim, 395. Number 4 is a door, Delet, to the sanctity of the Shabbat, and accordingly, the fourth commandment is devoted to Shabbat. Number 4 is associated with divinity, since the sum of the first 4 digits from 1 to 4 equals 10, the geometric value of the holy letter Yod. Therefore, number 4 faithfully presents the decimal count, and accordingly, the fourth Hebrew letter, Dalet, literally means a door, serves as a gate leading to the decimal space. And the multiplication of 4, 8, Shemona in Gematria 395 means the sky, Hashamayim, and also soul, Neshama. In the beginning, God created the soul and the earth. When we rotate the Shabbat square, an octagon of light appears, consisting of 16 ribs of 207, meaning light, or 16 rays surround the Shabbat and fills the upper sky with light. And God said, "Let there be light," and there became light. The light of the heavens, the light of the soul, 395 in Gematria, also means simple, Pashut. And so, here's a simple light, or Pashut, of the decimal system of number 4 and of Shabbat. This is a natural illustration to the famous quote from Ha'ari, "For before the nobles have been nobled, and before the creatures were created, there was a simple upper light, filling the entire world, etc. And that is which we call the light of infinity." The lights of Shabbat and of heavens are being revealed by number 4 and a square, since the lights were created on the fourth day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." The biblical word for natural light source, Ma'or, in Hebrew 247, also means remez, a sign, a hint, a clue. And indeed, the geometry of the fourth day, when heavenly lights were created, contain hints, a big clue and a small one. The godly command, "Let there be," and indeed it became. Yehi vayehi in Gematria 56 equals Yom, day. And the created light, as we know, was called day. And Elohim named the light day. The lights of the heavens and Shabbat are reinforced by a rhombus of covenant, Brit, 612. A covenant which connects two ribs of the Shabbat square with the two vertices of the second square. When the covenant is renewed, it turns out that every covenant, 612, is divided into two components, Messiah, 358, and created, 253, Nivra, which is the sum of 22 Hebrew letters, 22 numbers from 1 to 22. The interdependence of Messiah and 22 Hebrew letters guarantees the establishment of covenant in Hebrew. So, semantically, the geometric phrase clarifies the fact that salvation, Geulah, a concept related to Messiah, can only be achieved or fulfilled if it completes the knowledge of the Hebrew letters. Only together can Messiah and created guarantee the realization or actualization of the covenant of the Shabbat. This covenant is responsible for the creation of more inner lights that emanate from the meeting points of Messiah and created. And this is the inner area of 4 squares of light. Since light is called day, we can now declare that the lights of the Messiah are the Messianic days. So, here is the first step to understanding the term in Hebrew. The term Messiah, or Messianic days, is connected to the covenant that each one can make with the Hebrew language. The Messiah is not someone else. The Messiah is within us. The covenant of the Shabbat lights, as being revealed in 8 and the octagon, clarifies why circumcision, or a covenant of leather, Brit Milah, is made on the 8th day of the newly born. But this covenant, Brit Milah, is directed to word. Milah is a covenant of language, knowledge, and science. Hence, so far, we see a supreme being that wants the whole stage for itself. But our ability to witness the thought of creation stems from the fact that we speak the language of the Creator, God, Hebrew. Number 4, much like the 4th letter Dalet, is a door, Delet, a gate, allowing a glimpse into the decimal laboratory of the divine language or computer of nature, the Hebrew language. 4 provides a look into the heavenly Garden of Eden, made of letters and numbers, dimensions and shapes. The immediate revelation of the Shabbat, the light of heaven, the simple light, covenant, Messiah, and the 22 letters are reinforced by another truth that is revealed when we divide 1000 to 4. The result, 250, means ner, candle. In other words, 4 is associated with light, whichever way we look. The candle of heaven, the candle of Shabbat, simple light of a candle. All these geometrical terms semantically related to light, to number 4, to the 4th day of creation, and to heaven luminaries. To the 4th commandment, remember the Shabbat light. So now, it is perfectly clear that decimal geometry is the natural illustration of the biblical text in Hebrew. In the octagon of lights, there are 16 light ribs surrounding the Shabbat. 16 is the serial number of the Hebrew letter Ayin, meaning literally an eye, and not coincidentally, since only by virtue of the light and the eye can we see. In the absence of light, no eye cup can see, because the human eye functions only in the presence of light. 16 in Gematria also means Hoveh, the now, presently. Since 4, Arba in Gematria 273, means Rega, a moment. The now is a good moment to open an eye or two and see what the decimal natural sciences tell us. What is the meaning of the dimensions, and what is written in the mathematical program of the divine language or the divine computer of creation. For the written word, or writing in general, is a visual activity. It is an extension of the function of the eye. The great power of language and of writing is in the ability to create certain means that translate all human activity or that of nature in all languages into set of symbols. And symbols, as we see, are completely neutral. They are objective. Symbols are simply there, and writing is built out of letters. The human being has no role or function in this domain. He stands outside the written word or the symbol. Man is completely detached. He's not the creator of the symbols, but he's the receiver. He can only understand the information conveyed. Only if he knows the language and understand its mathematical structure. The Shabbat square creates an octagonal structure that preserves a decimal master plan in Hebrew and keeps an important memory in Judaism regarding the Shabbat light, the covenant of the Shabbat, the Messiah, and the concept created, which alludes to the 22 letters. And the division into 4 naturally illustrates the 4th commandment. Remember the day of Shabbat to keep it holy. Since day is called light, we can read it now as, remember the light of the Shabbat to keep it holy. What we have before us is a natural, geometric, objective illustration of the 4th day of creation, an archetypal symbol that is worth remembering, since it proves and confirms the fact that Hebrew is a decimal, mathematical, and geometric language, the language of nature, and it also proves that the decimal system is a natural selection of communication with Adam. The nature equals 86, meaning Elohim, God. So if this is the language of the nature, it's the language of God, and this is his mathematical and geometrical creation. It is meant for Hebrew speakers, but there is more. Let us see the evolution of light, and the way it transcends from Sephirah to Sephirah, Hishtalshelut ha'or, in Kabbalistic terms. The lights of the covenant of the Shabbat in the inner quadrangle are attached to the 2 vertices of the Shabbat square by a rhombus of Israel. 541 in Gematria also means Sechel HaPoel, the active brain, one of the 10 minds attributed to God. It is attributed to the 10th Sephirah of the Tree of Life, Kingdom. 541, Israel, is the element connecting inner lights to the Shabbat square, to Aleph as a letter, and as dimension 1000, a reference to the Hebrew language and to the decimal system. 1000 Aleph is simply Aleph in a different punctuation. The quadratic matrix reflects an objective truth, and not only in Hebrew, but in a universal language. For example, the very word truth, 441, as expressed in the geometric grid, clearly confirms the truth of Pythagoras' theorem, which is known as a straight triangle, where the sides are 3 and 4 and the diagonal is 5, and in the famous equation of 3 in square plus 4 in square equal 5 square. The quadratic units represent 1 unit, and the word truth confirms the idea that was attributed to Pythagoras, although the proof is much older and lies in the mathematical infrastructure of the Hebrew Logos, and was mentioned in advance and long before Pythagoras as an important idea and absolutely true, sealed with the word truth. Truth, 441, is a square of the number 21, represented by the letter Shin. Shin represents Esh, fire, so fire times fire equals 441, truth. The name of the letter Shin in Gematria sum up to 360, which clearly points to a circle and 360 degrees. The letter Shin is also Sheni, meaning second, or number 2, the base for 4, 8, 16, etc. Therefore, truth can be found in Shin, in the decimal circle, and in the Shabbat square. But truth primarily relates to the names of God, and one of His names equals I am who I am, Eheye, equals 21. Therefore, it is said, I am that I am. Exodus 3:14. In other words, 21 times 21 equals truth, 441. After all, everything was created for the glory of the names of God. I am who I am. When we look at light, dimension 207, we are practically looking at the word day, because Elohim called the light day. Genesis chapter 1. However, light as Ma'or 247 means a hint, and indeed, the plan of the fourth day and heavenly luminaries contains hints. Ma'or Gadol and Ma'or Katan, a big hint and a small hint. If so, what else is hidden in this plan? Is it hinting about a new day? A new light or a new meaning for the sentence to make the Shabbat a covenant of the word? לעשות את השבת ברית עולם? Geometry exposes the mathematical logic inherent in the Hebrew language. Light is called day, and day in Gematria 56 means atom, the smallest particle that until recently seems to have nothing in it, but in fact it contains a lot. Structures within structures, particles inside particles. Atom, day, light are made of particles of language, and particle, chelkik, in Gematria 248 means chomer, matter. 248 also means Abraham, the biblical patriarch who wrote the famous Book of Formation, the ancient Kabbalistic book of diameter that is revealed in geometry, and exposes the decimal mathematics of the motherboard of the quantum computer in Hebrew. The deeper we dig, the more infinite light will be revealed. Therefore, one of the hypotheses here is that an octagonal structure, such as the dome of the rock on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, perpetuates knowledge in Hebrew and keeps an important memory in Judaism. And it offers a geometric illustration of the eighth heaven, to which Muhammad ascended from Jerusalem, but also to Shamayim, heaven and soul, the Shabbat, the light of the Shabbat, the simple light, truth, Israel, Brit, Messiah, and to the concept of created, which points to the 22 Hebrew letters. The geometric logos is the unified field of consciousness in Hebrew, in which the inherited memory in Hebrew reverberates, in which the primary information, the mathematics, the names of God, the philosophy of language, the esotericism, and the forces that drive the universe and human thought are preserved. The unified morphogenic field preserves information in various forms that connect to each other and are transferred from field to field. Geometry is the unified field in Hebrew. The field, Hasadeh, in Gematria 314, means Shaddai or Metatron, one of the names of God, and a direct reference to the decimal system, since 314 is the circumference of a 100 diameter circle. The unified, in Gematria 64, means your blood. In other words, the united field exists within us, in our very blood. The Hebrew logos is conversational. It is a logical channel of communication, because we share a common language with the Supreme Being who created the world with words. And we speak the same language, Hebrew. The unified field, 314 plus 64 equals 378. In Hebrew, it means electricity, chashmal, a word that is made of two acronyms, cheshbon, arithmetics, and milim, words. Therefore, electricity is achieved with mathematics and words, numbers and letters. And in Hebrew, numbers are letters and dimensions are words. As it is written in the Bible, the world was created by the speaking of words, starting with the phrase, "Let there be," and it became. Yehi vayehi equals 56, same as the word day. And day is light, since he named the light day. When we examine the fourth day, the decimal geometry of 4, the Shabbat square, and heavenly lights, the truth, Israel, Moses, the 22 letters, and Messiah, we see the formation of electric rhombus in the center of the field. The electric core, Chashmal, is made of numbers and letters, arithmetic and words, and it contains a 253 diameter circle. 253 is Nivra, created, the very sum of the 22 first numbers, the 22 Hebrew letters. In the core lies the sphere of the Hebrew language, the hidden engine or the creative force behind electricity, the tool of creation. If so, are we looking at a geometric plan of an electric universe? Or perhaps at a simulation? Look at the way electricity contains the created 22 letters. All the information gathered so far relates to light, the Shabbat, simple light, truth, the heaven luminaries, especially the big luminary, the sun, as a symbol, in the shape of the golden dome in Jerusalem. All of these raise the question, is the sun conscious? On the fourth day, God created the sun and the moon, and in the Kabbalah, they present two spheres of the tree of life, wisdom and intelligence, Chokhmah veBinah, in Gematria 146, same as world. So, the big luminary, the sun, represents the mind and wisdom, and the small luminary, the moon, represents imagination and intelligence. Both Sephirot replace a world, 146. So now it is clear that the covenant of the Shabbat depends on the sum or the fulfillment or combination of these two Sephirot. So we can read it now as to make the Shabbat a covenant of wisdom and intelligence. Philosophers such as the Rambam dealt with the ways to attain spiritual light and with the essence of light, primordial light, pure light, the hidden light, the infinite light, and a divine, simple light. The light in geometry is hidden in the Torah, in the geometry of 7, and in a decimal circle with diameter 1000. The light is revealed by the Shabbat square, because the Shabbat, number 7, and the heptagon solves the dimensional riddle of the greatest mystery of the ancient world, the pyramids of Giza, and reveal the source of the Hebrew script. They reveal the names of God, show the relationship between the moon and the earth, and much more. The light is connected to the pyramid, since the word pyramid means fire, and the morphogenic field of the Great Pyramid is a 240 diameter circle. 240 means Ruach Yehovah, the Spirit of God, Yehovah. The same Spirit of God, 240, creates a hexagon, Merkava, a star of David made of lights. Each side of the triangle is 207 long. The same light transcends through number 4, to the Shabbat square, and to 8 and the octagonal. These are precise drawings that explain the Kabbalistic term Hishtalshelut Ha'or, the stream of light, from Sephirah to Sephirah. And this is one of the ways for achieving spiritual light, wisdom lights that shine in our mind. Since Sephirot are thoughts, and correct thoughts depend on precision and on counting and calculation. Thoughts, machshavot, are rooted in chashev, to count, to sum it up. The Shabbat light is a mathematical and geometrical fact. In the last century, a question arose: does God play with the dice? Here too, the answer lies in the Hebrew language and decimal geometry. Since the word game, mischak, in Gematria 448, is the word seal, chatam, it is safe to answer affirmatively: God plays. God signed and sealed his names and other divine terms and idioms in a prosaic, mathematical, and geometric language. Since the game of God is based on the decimal count, the game board and the seals of the names are revealed in decimal geometry, 1000 and the letter Aleph. Let's see how God plays with the Shabbat square and the decimal system. 1000 in Gematria means Sheva Brachot, 7 blessings. Sheva, 372, plus Brachot, 628, equals 1000. 1000 also represents the 6 days of creation, since the word 6, Sheshet, equals 1000. A clear reference to the decimal system and 7 blessings. After all, the 7th day is the Shabbat. This part is taken from the previous film on number 9 and Nonagon. And the sons of Israel shall keep the Shabbat to make the Shabbat the covenant of world. Exodus 31:1. Shabbat equals 707. Covenant equals 612. World equals 146. Every Shabbat day he shall set it in order before Yahweh continually. It is on the behalf of the children of Israel an everlasting covenant. Leviticus 24:8. The Hebrew Logos is expressed in decimal geometry, and the findings so far can close the debate between faith and science and lead to the inevitable conclusion that God is not at all contrary to science. In fact, it is the opposite. Geometry proves that the God of Israel, with all its names and teachings, is based in the infrastructure of science and mathematics. God is reflected in basic principles of geometry. The seal of the names of God in Hebrew are natural history. They are commemorated by cardinal dimensions in classical forms, as ribs and angles. In fact, the names of God are the elements that make up the whole, and they are the bearers of scientific knowledge. They are the mathematical and formal parts of the unified field. Therefore, the debate between the belief in God and scientists, in light of the facts, is totally unfounded. Regarding the age-old question of whether God was a geometer, the answer is also positive, since the names of God are geometry, no matter how we look at it. His names appear in the dimensions of decimal geometry, which is the stage on which the Hebrew language performs. This is the channel of communication in which it conveys messages and can be heard or read most clearly. The morphogenic field that is being discovered in geometry organizes all the energy in the universe and expresses it in Hebrew. The word field, Hasadeh, 314, is the name of God, Shaddai, or Metatron, but mainly it functions as a reference to decimal geometry, since 314 is the circumference of a 100 diameter circle. Let's look again at the decimal figure, a 100 diameter circle, and see how the field of Shaddai, 314, encompasses all the space and all the names of God, Anochi, Elohim, Yehovah, Adonai, Eliv. The unified morphogenic field preserves information in various forms which connect to each other, being transferred from field to field, as occurs in nature when light energy is transmitted through the process of photosynthesis to leaves, or when light energy is converted to heat, because energy is the principle of behavior, of transformation from form to form. Energy itself is not a morphological field, but it rearranges according to the field it is going through. The unified field is within us too, because the letter Aleph, when added to Dam, blood, turns us into Adam, human. That is to say, the decimal computer stored in the letter Aleph is also found in Adam, and the letters are the means that connect us to the text, connect the speaking person to the main computer. It is written to make Shabbat the covenant of world. And indeed, this geometric plan exposed the light of the Shabbat and the covenant of world. Since light is called day, there is no doubt that the golden dome of the rock, symbolizing the sun, the great light, is in its proper natural place, in the center of the inner squares of light. There is something objective about this geometric plan that makes it hard to ignore its importance. As we see, geometric symbols are completely neutral. The morphogenic field is beyond the realm of material objects because the field is not material, but energy. The field is the hidden architectural plan that is revealed only when it is redesigned over and over again, every generation. The plan is not made of real materials, but rather it simply contains information. It transfers and inserts in form information. The unified field is the ultimate attractor that contains everything, a perfect element that attracts, balances, and corrects any deviation in the present in order to preserve the future. Geometry describes an ideal situation. It conveys natural, scientific, multidimensional information that is related to the infrastructure of consciousness in Hebrew. It describes the thought of creation or the decimal computer of creation. The Logos may be outside of us, human beings, but it is symbiotically related to each one through our blood. In other words, the information from the field, from the collective subconscious, from the Akashi library, is transmitted to every person in his own language, and it is translated in his mind according to the culture and the heritage he was born to. Every person is part of the whole and has a heritage trait from birth that enables him to connect with the unified field, the collective subconscious, and the general memory. In order to understand how ancient the Logos is, let's look again at the decimal circle, 1000 this time divided into 10. We will find divine circles and dimensions that derive from the decimal count and number 10, which is naturally associated with the 10th generation, Noach, and the story of the ark. Noach symbolizes the decimal count. Therefore, a 1000 diameter circle divided into 10 reveals an ark of courage, Gevurah, radius 216. In its center revolves the divine wind of Kadim, radius 154, Ruach Kadim. The same wind helped Moses to cross the sea in two. The ark of courage, Gevurah, the fifth Sephirah, is coated with gopher, an outer ring of 283, as Noach was told to cover it with gopher, 283. At this level of understanding, it is correct to refer to the word flood, in Gematria 78, as the wisdom. Since Noach's ark hints first and foremost to the ark as a word, each word is teiva, for letters. Therefore an ark is a house for letters, and the house is the language, the house of God, built up of mathematics and words. A decimal master plan and its division into 10 or 5 also reveals Moses in the ark. Moses is connected to 10, thanks to the 10 commandments, and to 5 through the 5 books of the Torah. Moshe, 345, means El Shaddai, creates the fifth way, 224. The word derech, path, surrounding the divine wind of Kadim, 154, associated with the parting of the sea and to the 72 names, and 72 is the inner angle of this pentagram. To conclude, the decimal system, as seen, contains the essence of the drama of Noach, the 10th generation, and of Moses and the 10 commandments. Until now, we have seen that there is memory in nature, that the universe is not only a compilation of laws translated into mathematics, but a living organism that is constantly moving, cyclical, evolving, built on patterns of autonomous order, with a method that reorganizes itself. It contains all the memory and can transmit the information in the same tools to Hebrew-speaking Adam, human beings. The media is the message. Hebrew geometry shows how the geometric grid carries meaning and not just dimensions and numbers. Geometry is a visual and mathematical description of prosaic sentences, and the morphogenic field explains how shapes are formed. Morpho, form, genesis, the process of creation. So, are we looking at parallel worlds that explain themselves? Quantum theory tells us that particles can be in several places at the same time. Perhaps the program of creation is a kind of quantum computer in Hebrew, which organizes and communicates with all these parallel worlds. At any stage, any geometric plan that we tested is always more than the total of its parts. It seems to be that the fields are holistic. The organism, like the known nature, can heal itself, since it is an inherited quality and ability in any living thing. If so, the Hebrew language is the gateway to exact science, but also to the supernatural, the theological terms, and to the names of God. Science and faith derive from the same linguistic and mathematical matrix, and they coexist because Hebrew is the language of symbols that was discovered at Mount Sinai, where the people literally saw the voices, the words. Sinai in Gematria 130 equals semel, meaning symbol. Therefore, Mount Sinai is the Mount Symbols, and perhaps these divine symbols may be a partial reconstruction of the ceremony, because the Gematria calculus has not changed ever since. Mount Sinai 205 plus 130 equals 335. This is also the word storm. And when Prophet Ezekiel witnessed divine visions like the revelation at Mount Sinai, he described it this way: "And behold, the wind of storm came from the north, a great cloud and fire, flared up, surrounded by bright illumination all around. And from its center sprouted the eye of electricity from the fire, and from it the image of 4 livings." Ezekiel continues with the theme of 4 faces, 4 wings, 4 quarters, and their wings to all 4. And the truth in his words lies in the quadruple matrix, where we see electricity and lights surrounding it all around. So, what is the nature of reality? Is the plan that holds reality a simulation? Are these just simple equations of information passing through space? When we examine and measure a scientific, calculated, mathematical and geometrical plan, we can clearly see the seal of God's names in the dimensions. All these divine forces hold reality and are connected to light. And the light, as a scientific, esoteric or theological concept, and as a geometrical fact, is connected to the Shabbat, to the covenant of the world, to Israel, to truth, and to the Hebrew language. Drama, as we see, can be a simulation of the behavior of objects, shapes, or symbols. In the words of King David, "May God guide me by circles of justice for the sake of finding God's name." This is a story that is revealed only by doing, only by actually drawing and measuring, because symbols are the soul of something higher. They are the temple of the world. These structures that descend to us from the hyperspace are not merely ordinary, but themselves they are symbols of something else. And through them, we can discover the deep principles found in the laws of nature, and not only due to their shape or form, but rather from their content and their meaning that inspire internal insights and provoke thoughts about the philosophy of the natural language and the creation. To reveal the names of God is the divine game. God signed His names and created the world to commemorate His names. Then you will understand righteousness and judgment and equity of every good circle, path. Proverbs 2:9. To conclude, we have witnessed the seal of an independent divine spirit who wishes to dominate the whole space, who wants the whole stage for itself. An everlasting Spirit of God that works alone, perpetuates its names within the machine of creation, and takes us on a journey beyond time into the world of wisdom. The geometric program of the 4th day, Shabbat, and heaven contains natural, scientific, mathematical, and esoteric information, almost paranormal, multidimensional, geometric information in the Hebrew language. Since Logos means the informing spirit, the Hebrew Logos is the language itself, the revealing spirit, the speaking voice, the inner voice that informs us. If only we expand our consciousness, we will be able to connect with the divine mind, communicate with the language, and see abstract things in the constructive infrastructure of our consciousness. Because geometry is a scientific vehicle that can bring the light and show the Spirit of God that dwells in matter and in form.